You know, whenever somebody asks you how you're doing, I always make the reference that nobody stops for you to answer. And then I started thinking about it, and I started realizing if they were to stop, what would I answer? Because really how I'm doing is a big conversation. It depends on which me you're talking about. There's about 10 of us going on. How am I doing in my body? How am I doing in my finances? How am I doing in my mind? How am I doing in my business? How am I doing in my family? How am I doing all kinds of ways? Emotionally, this is mental health month. How am I doing is a long conversation. So if you don't have like 3 or 4 hours, just wave at me. Don't ask me no questions you don't have time to spend time getting the answer to. Maybe it's just me, but how many of you have found yourself struggling to rest in today for fear of tomorrow? Struggling to rest in today for fear of tomorrow. We're living in the most uncertain times that I have ever seen. You can't be quite sure of anything. You can't be sure of the values of our world, of our country, of our government, of the place you work. You can't be sure. Everything's shifting. Everybody's shifting. Everybody's gone blind to what they said yesterday. There are no absolutes anymore. Things don't have to be bad just to be threatening. It's not that something has happened. It's like a cloud of suppose this doesn't work. Suppose that doesn't work. Suppose this happens. Suppose that happens. Suppose. Often the threat rests solely in the crevices of your own mind. And am I the only one that ever feels threatened? Just threatened. Sometimes you don't even know what you're threatened about. You just feel threatened. It's often the threat test solely in the crevices of your mind to the point that you wake up late at night. And it's like the night of the living dead. And you find yourself in situations and circumstances where all these entombed issues come out in your dreams, come out in insomnia, or just an overall feeling of dis-ease. We should really look at that word dis-ease because we say it disease, but disease is dis-ease. Your body was not designed to ingest dis-ease. And yet we are living in a world that is increasingly diseasing. You know, I stopped listening at the same story play over and over on the news over and over again because I don't need to reinforce. I heard that already. I don't need to hear everybody comment on everything about it because it creates a spirit of dis-ease. And the reason we have a home is a place to rest in, a place to relax in, a place to renew yourself in. And I don't mean all things are going bad. That's one thing. But when your life is an oxymoron, you know, it's an oxymoron is when two contrasting things coexist in the same space, like hot ice. An oxymoron is a term that doesn't make sense, and yet it is true. Your life doesn't make sense, and yet it is true. It kind of reminds me of Charles Dickens' statement, and I quote, "It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, and it was the winter of despair." All at the same time. And you're weaving through the traffic of laughter and tears. Weaving through the traffic, trying to dodge the cars of pain and power, of goodness and agony, all at the same time. staring out of a glass that should be clear late at night, a window that is darkened by night. Instead, all we see is the sleepless eyes staring out of glass so blackened by night that your house is a house of mirrors and your life resembles a carnival. You don't understand what I'm saying unless you woke up in the middle of the night and stared out of a window where you couldn't see anything except your own reflection. And instead of it being a house of rest, it is a carnival of disease. A bill we can't pay. A child we can't heal. A job we hate. Or a lurking sense of danger is in a roommate to an impending blessing. A lurking sense of danger is roommate to an impending blessing. So on one hand, I'm the happiest, saddest I've ever been. I'm the happiest, saddest I've ever been. I'm the most victorious, defeated I've ever been. I'm the most accomplished, insecure I've ever been, all at the same time. Best and worst at times, all at the same time. Is there anybody in here that can relate to it? Now, I know that there is a spiritual quorum of people in here who only profess what's good. But when nobody's looking, you worry about what's bad. You always have a positive confession, and I'm not hating on you going with your positive confession. But to the people who want to keep it real in here, you live your life braced almost for the next shoe to drop. And you don't know which shoe it's going to be. Is it going to be a blessing shoe or is it going to be a burdensome shoe? But you brace for it. Either way it comes. Either way it comes, I got to deal with it. Whatever it is, I got to. The uncertainty is worse than the shoe drop. Can anybody relate to what I'm talking about? Why are the weapons of our warfare not more accessible when we need them the most? I don't need the weapons of my warfare so much in church. I need the weapons of my warfare to activate at 3 o'clock in the morning. Come on. I need the weapons of my warfare to activate when I'm in the grocery store and somebody has said something to me so crazy that I'm not sure whether I'm called to ministry or not. I might be called to be a part of the Crips. There are people that make me feel like a gang leader every now and then, and I need the weapons of my warfare to work for me right then. Why are they not more accessible? Because you can get in the crisis, in the storm, in the test, in the hospital, in the rain, at the cemetery, at the IRS meeting, at the accountant's office, and forget everything you heard Sunday.